The ice storm hit Arcturus 7 without warning at 0300 hours. Jack Morrison pulled his thermal coat tighter and squinted through the swirling white chaos. He had been a foreman on this frozen moon for 3 years now, and he thought he had seen every kind of weather this place could throw at him. He was wrong. The wind howled like a living thing, carrying shards of ice that pinged off his helmet visor. His boots crunched through knee-deep snow as he made his way along the perimeter fence. The mining equipment stood silent, covered in white blankets. Even the machines needed shelter from storms like this. Jack checked his wrist display. The temperature had dropped to -60 degrees. His breath came out in frozen clouds. He should turn back, get to the heated shelter and wait this out. But something made him pause. A sound, faint, almost lost in the wind. He turned his head, adjusting his helmet's audio filters. There it was again. A weak cry like a whimper. Jack's heart picked up speed. Nothing should be alive out here in this. The colony had no native animals. The scanning teams had been clear about that. He followed the sound, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness and snow. 50 meters from the main complex, he found them. 2 small creatures were huddled together in a drift of ice and snow. They were barely visible, their bodies half frozen and covered in a thin layer of frost. Jack dropped to his knees and brushed away the ice with his gloved hands. They looked like wolf pups but not quite. Their fur was white with hints of blue, and it seemed to shimmer even in the darkness. Each creature had 6 legs instead of 4. Strange markings covered their bodies, patterns that looked almost like circuitry. The markings were dim now, barely glowing with a faint blue light. One of them opened its eyes. They were silver, like mirrors reflecting starlight. The pup made that weak sound again. Jack's training kicked in. The colony protocols were clear. Unknown life forms were to be reported immediately and left alone until the science team arrived. Touching them could be dangerous. They could carry diseases. They could be toxic. They could be anything. But Jack looked at those silver eyes and saw only fear and cold and the desperate need for help. He made his decision in 2 seconds. Jack opened his thermal coat and carefully lifted both creatures. They were surprisingly light, no heavier than house cats. Their bodies were ice cold even through his gloves. He tucked them inside his coat against his chest and zipped it back up. The pups shivered against his body heat. The walk back to his shelter felt like miles. The storm seemed to fight him with every step, pushing him back, trying to keep him from safety. His arms ached from holding the creatures secure. His legs burned from pushing through the deep snow. But he kept moving. Finally he reached the airlock. The door hissed open and he stumbled inside. The warmth hit him like a wall. He moved quickly through decontamination, holding the pups carefully as the sterilization mist covered him. Inside his living quarters, Jack laid the creatures on his bed and wrapped them in heated blankets. He cranked up the room temperature. The colony AI's voice chimed a warning about energy usage, but he ignored it. He grabbed his emergency medical kit and scanned the pups with his handheld device. The readings made no sense. Their biology was nothing like anything in the database. Their body temperature was far too low. Their heart rates were barely detectable. Jack did what he could. He used warming pads. He made a mixture of water and nutrient paste and carefully fed them with a dropper. 1 drop at a time he got liquid into their small mouths. Hours passed. The storm raged outside. Jack sat on the floor beside his bed, watching the creatures breathe. Their markings began to glow brighter as they warmed up. The blue light pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Just before dawn, both pups opened their eyes and looked at him. Their bioluminescent patterns flared bright. And somewhere, thousands of light years away, alarms began to sound. Jack woke to the sound of alarms screaming through his shelter. His eyes snapped open. The 2 pups were curled up beside him on the bed, their fur now dry and fluffy. The blue markings on their bodies glowed steadily, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern like breathing lights. He reached for his communication device. The screen was flooded with emergency messages. His hands shook as he read them. All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown vessels detected. This is not a drill. Jack jumped out of bed and pulled on his boots. The pups lifted their heads, watching him with those strange silver eyes. He rushed to his window and looked up at the sky. His breath caught in his throat. The sky was full of ships. Not 10 or 20. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. They hung in the atmosphere like a swarm of metal stars, blocking out the natural darkness of space. Their hulls gleamed with the same blue light that covered the pups' bodies. His communicator buzzed. It was Davies, the colony administrator. Her voice was tight with panic. Morrison, get to the command center now. We have a situation. Jack looked back at the pups. They were sitting up now, staring at the ceiling as if they could see through it to the ships above. Their markings pulsed faster. "I'm on my way," Jack said. He grabbed his coat, then paused. Some instinct made him scoop up both pups and tuck them into a carrier bag. They didn't resist. The command center was chaos. 20 people crowded around holographic displays, all talking at once. Military advisors from Earth were on video screens shouting orders. Colony security personnel stood with weapons ready. 2,000 ships, Davy said when she saw Jack. Her face was pale. 2,000. They appeared 30 minutes ago. They haven't responded to any of our communications. They're just waiting. Jack set the carrier down. The pups poked their heads out, looking around with curious eyes. "What the hell are those?" a security officer demanded, pointing at the pups. Before Jack could answer, every screen in the room flickered. The military advisors vanished. The colony's AI went silent. Then a new image appeared on all the displays at once. A face. Not human. It was wolf-like but elegant, covered in white and silver fur. The same blue markings glowed across its features. Its eyes were ancient and intelligent. "Humans of Arcturus 7, the being said." Its voice was deep and resonant, translated into perfect English. "We mean you no harm. We have come for our young. Return them and we will depart in peace." The room fell dead silent. Everyone turned to look at Jack. He felt his stomach drop. "The creatures you found," Davies whispered. They're theirs." Jack nodded slowly. He opened the carrier fully. The two pups climbed out and sat on the table. Their markings synchronized with the patterns on the face in the screen. The being's expression changed. If a wolf could smile, that was what it looked like. "You," it said, focusing on Jack. "You saved them. In the ice storm. You brought them to warmth and gave them life." They were dying," Jack said. His voice sounded small. "I couldn't leave them." "We are the Kethrii," the being said. "I am Matriarch Silvara. The young ones you saved are my children. Royal heirs to our people. They were lost when our diplomatic shuttle crashed in your storm. We have searched for 2 days and nights." Jack's mind raced. Royal heirs. 2,000 ships. An entire fleet had come looking for these two small creatures. "They're okay now," Jack said. "Just cold and scared when I found them. But they're healthy." The matriarch's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "You risked yourself in the killing storm. You gave them warmth from your own body. You fed them. You asked for nothing in return." "Of course," Jack said. "They needed help." The matriarch was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that would change everything. "A life debt is owed. By ancient law, by sacred honor, the Kethrii owe humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid. I request permission to land. I must meet this one who saved my children. Face to face." The human military arrived within 6 hours. 3 warships dropped out of hyperspace and took defensive positions around Arcturus 7. Admiral Chin appeared on every screen in the colony, his face hard as steel. "We will handle this situation," he announced. "No one makes contact with the alien fleet without military authorization." But Jack had already agreed to meet with the matriarch. Davies had approved it before the military arrived. Now it was too late to back out. Jack stood in the shuttle bay, wearing his best clean jumpsuit. It was still just work clothes, stained and patched. The 2 pups sat at his feet, their tails wagging. They seemed excited, making small chirping sounds he had never heard before. "You don't have to do this," Davies said quietly. She stood beside him, nervous. "We can send a diplomat. Someone trained for this." Jack shook his head. "She asked for me. And honestly, I want to make sure the pups get home safe." A Kethrii shuttle descended through the atmosphere. It was beautiful, all flowing curves and blue light. It landed with barely a whisper of sound. The door opened and a ramp extended. The matriarch emerged first. She was massive, easily 8 feet tall when standing upright on her hind legs. Her white fur seemed to shimmer with its own light. Behind her came 12 other Kethrii, all warriors by the look of them. They wore armor that glowed with the same blue patterns. The pups broke free from Jack's side and ran toward their mother. They made joyful yipping sounds. The matriarch dropped to all 6 legs and nuzzled them, making soft rumbling sounds deep in her chest. The reunion made Jack's throat tight. He thought of his own children lost 5 years ago in the colony accident. He would have crossed a galaxy to hold them one more time. After a long moment, the matriarch stood and approached Jack. She moved with grace despite her size. She stopped 3 feet away and looked down at him. Her silver eyes studied his face. Jack Morrison, she said. Foreman. Minor. Savior of royal blood. Just Jack is fine, he said. His voice only shook a little. I'm glad I could help. You do not understand what you have done, the matriarch said. She gestured, and one of her warriors brought forward a crystalline tablet. Images appeared in the air above it, holographic and beautiful. My people, the Kethrii, nearly went extinct 300 years ago. A plague took 90% of our population. Every child became precious, sacred. We vowed then that we would never abandon our young, never let one suffer alone. The images showed a dying world, then a slow recovery. Ships spreading out into space. A civilization rebuilding itself. When we lost my children in the storm, every ship in our royal fleet came searching. 2,000 vessels. Every warrior, every pilot, every soul who could fly. Because 2 lives mattered that much to us. Jack understood. You would have searched forever. Yes, the matriarch said simply. But you found them first. You, a stranger from a species we barely know. You went into the killing cold. You gave them your warmth, your food, your care. You asked for nothing. Expected nothing. She stepped closer. Jack had to tilt his head back to maintain eye contact. We have traveled the stars for 3 centuries, she continued. We have met 47 different species. Most ignore those in need. Some exploit weakness. A few show kindness when it benefits them. She paused. But you helped because it was right. Because they were suffering. This is rare in the galaxy. This is precious. The matriarch placed a clawed hand on Jack's shoulder. It was surprisingly gentle. The Kethrii declare alliance with humanity. Not because of trade or military power or strategic advantage. But because we have seen your hearts. If one human in the frozen darkness will save 2 alien children he does not know, then humanity is a species worth standing beside. Behind her, the 2,000 ships began to glow brighter, their lights pulsing in unison. It looked like the stars themselves were celebrating. Admiral Chen's face appeared on Davy's tablet. He looked stunned. They're offering a full alliance? Just like that. Jack smiled and scratched one of the pups behind its ears. Kindness matters, he said. Sometimes that's all it takes. The debate lasted 3 weeks. Politicians from every human colony argued on screens that stretched across the galaxy. Some called Jack a hero. Others called him reckless. A few even suggested he had planned the whole thing somehow. Jack sat in his small quarters on Arcturus 7 watching the news feeds. His face was everywhere now. The foreman who changed everything, one headline read. Humanity's accidental ambassador, said another. He hated it. The pups stayed with him while the diplomats argued. The matriarch had asked if they could remain until the alliance was formalized. Jack had agreed. They followed him everywhere now, even to his mining inspections. The other colonists got used to seeing him with 2 glowing wolf creatures at his heels. One night, Davies came to his quarters with a bottle of real whiskey. It must have cost her a fortune to ship from Earth. They want you to testify, she said, pouring 2 glasses. In front of the Colonial Congress. They're voting on the alliance next week. Jack took the glass but didn't drink. What am I supposed to say? The truth. Davies sat down across from him. Tell them why you did it. Jack was quiet for a long time. One of the pups rested its head on his knee. He stroked its crystalline fur. I had a family once, he said finally. A wife. 2 kids. Boy and a girl. They were on Colony Station Theta when the life support failed. I was working on Mars. By the time I got the message they were already gone. Davies said nothing. She just listened. I came out here to get away from everything. To work and not think and not feel. For 3 years that's all I did. Wake up, check the equipment, go to sleep. I was just going through the motions. He looked down at the pup. Its silver eyes gazed back at him. Then I found these 2 in the ice. And I couldn't let them die. I couldn't walk away and pretend I hadn't seen them. Because that's not who I want to be. So you saved them, Davies said softly. I did what anyone should do. What anyone would do, I hope. Jack finally took a sip of the whiskey. It burned going down. The Kethrii keep calling it extraordinary. But it shouldn't be. Helping someone who's suffering should be the most ordinary thing in the world. A week later, Jack stood in front of the Colonial Congress. 300 representatives watched him from their seats. Billions more watched on live feeds across human space. He wore the same patch jumpsuit. He hadn't wanted to, but the matriarch had insisted. Show them who you are, she had told him. A working man with a good heart. The Speaker of Congress asked him the question everyone wanted answered. Mr. Morrison, Why should humanity ally with a species we know nothing about? What strategic advantage does this give us? Jack looked at the sea of faces. He thought about his answer for a moment. I don't know anything about strategic advantages, he said. I'm just a foreman. But I know this. When I found those pups in the ice, I didn't check to see if helping them would benefit me. I didn't calculate the odds or think about the consequences. I just saw two living things that needed help and I helped them. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. The HFY saw that. They saw a human choose compassion over caution, kindness over self-interest, and they decided that's the kind of species they want as friends. Maybe we should ask ourselves, is that who we want to be? The kind of people who only help when there's something in it for us? Or the kind who help because it's right? Jack looked directly at the camera. I vote we be the people who help. Not because it's smart or strategic or profitable, but because when we look back at who we were, we can be proud. The vote happened 2 days later. The alliance passed by 73%. That night, the matriarch's ship lit up the sky over Arcturus 7 in celebration. And Jack Morrison, foreman and reluctant hero, finally smiled. 5 years passed like a dream. Jack stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the first joint human HFY colony. Through the massive windows he could see both species working side by side. Human engineers in orange suits welded support beams while HFY technicians installed their glowing blue power systems. Children of both species played together in the gardens below, chasing each other through carefully designed pathways. It still amazed him sometimes. Ambassador Morrison, a voice said behind him. Jack turned to see a young human diplomat, barely 25 years old. She looked nervous. The Zenthri delegation has arrived. They're requesting to meet with you. Jack nodded. Give me 5 minutes. The diplomat left and Jack returned to watching the colony. Ambassador. He still wasn't used to the title. He was just a foreman who had made one decent choice on a frozen night. But somehow that choice had become his life's work. Heavy footsteps approached. Jack knew that sound by now. He smiled before even turning around. 2 massive HFY entered the observation deck. They were no longer pups. Prince Frost and Princess Star had grown to full size, nearly 7 feet tall and covered in thick white fur. Their blue markings had deepened and become more intricate with age. But their silver eyes were the same, and when they saw Jack, they made the same happy chirping sounds they had made as babies. Jack father, Frost said. The HFY had given Jack that title. Not quite parent, not quite friend. Something deeper. You're thinking too much again. Jack laughed. Guilty. The Zenthri are here. Third species to request alliance this year. They heard the story, Star said, settling on her haunches beside him. Everyone has heard the story by now. The human who saved strangers in the ice. The species that chooses compassion. It shouldn't be special, Jack said quietly. It should just be normal. But it is special, Frost replied. We've met the Zenthri before. 40 years ago they found 3 HFY scouts injured on a moon. They left them to die because helping would have delayed their mining schedule by 2 days. His voice was sad. Now they see what alliance with you has brought us. Technology sharing. Trade. Friendship. And they wonder what they missed. Jack understood. The HFY had shared their advanced medical technology with humanity. Diseases that had plagued humans for centuries were now curable. In return, humans had shared agricultural methods that had tripled the HFY food supply. Both species were stronger together. Will you accept their alliance request? Star asked. That's not my decision alone, Jack said. But I'll recommend we give them a chance. Everyone deserves a chance to be better. The meeting with the Zenthri went well. They were an insect-like species, careful and formal. Their queen spoke of wanting to learn human values. Jack listened and took notes. He would pass it all to the real diplomats, the ones with training and education. But they always asked for his opinion first. That evening, Jack returned to his quarters on Unity Station. They were larger than his old shelter on Arcturus 7, but he kept them simple. A bed, a desk, a window looking at the stars. His communicator chimed. It was Davies, still running the colony on Arcturus 7. Her hair was grayer now, but her smile was the same. Saw the news, she said. Another species wanting to join up. You're building quite the neighborhood out there. We're trying, Jack said. How are things on the frozen rock? Cold as ever. But we got a situation today you might appreciate. Davies grinned. Young engineer named Chin found an injured alien creature during a supply run. Some kind of flying reptile thing. Brought it back to medical against all protocols. Jack felt his heart warm. What did you do? Gave her a medal and a promotion. Then I told her about this foreman I knew once, who taught us all that rules matter less than doing what's right. After the call ended, Jack looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, another person was making the choice to help. Another small act of kindness that might ripple out into something bigger. He thought about his family, gone but not forgotten. He hoped they would be proud of what he had become. Not because of the title or the fame, but because he had stayed true to the simple lesson they had taught him. Take care of those who need it. Be kind when you can. And never walk past someone who's suffering. Jack smiled and turned off the lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new species, new opportunities to show the galaxy what humanity could be. But tonight he was simply grateful. Grateful for a frozen storm, two small creatures in the ice, and the chance to prove that compassion could change everything.